This should be played at high volume.
Welcome to Outta Pocket. Here's your host, Michael Davis.
It is time to get out of pocket. I'm your host, Michael Davis, on Out of Pocket with Michael Davis on Tobacco Road Sports Radio, joined by one of my fellow co-hosts from the Cat Cave. You've seen him on Drop the Mic as well, Mr. Shannon Smith at podcast_Smitty. And, of course, produced by the one and only Desmond Johnson, who literally has his hand in everything. He was just doing Believe in Panthers this morning with Skylar and Jay Stu. And I didn't want to, have you talk too much about the Panthers, but I'm sure you wouldn't have mind me opening the show today with the Carolina Panthers because the NFL schedule released last night. And so we're going to get on the screen the Panthers schedule for the upcoming year. And I wanted to ask you guys, we kind of knew who the opponents were for the Carolina Panthers, when the season ended, because that's how they measure it out. But it wasn't until last night where we found out the schedule for the Carolina Panthers. So they opened week one in New Orleans against the Saints, 1:00 game. And then they had their first home game hosting Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert for the Los Angeles Chargers. Week three, they have another road game against the Las Vegas Raiders. That's your first 3 weeks there for the Carolina Panthers. So I wanted to ask you guys, what was your overall reaction to seeing the Panthers schedule? Do you think it's a favorable schedule? And what do you think their record is at the end of the year, Shannon?
I think it's a pretty favorable schedule. I noticed the Chargers being the first home game, which could be a challenge. I see they got the Bengals. Of course, they've got the reigning champion Kansas City Chiefs. They've got, of course, the two matchups with the Bucks, the Saints, the Falcons. The NFC South is still winnable. Doesn't matter what is being said or done. The blunders in Atlanta. We'll leave that alone. I think we've trashed Atlanta enough. I think Atlanta's hearing this. They're probably going to come get us. But the Eagles, the Cowboys, there's some challenges in this schedule, but the Panthers, I think, can make this a better season. This is going to be a season of what you're made of if you're the Carolina Panthers. After only winning 2 games last year, any wins above 2 games is going to be a good season for the Panthers, I believe. So I think the ceiling is a little lower than some teams. The Panthers just got to get back to playing watchable football. That's basically what the Panthers have to do this year, and I think that's what's going to happen this year. I think it is.
Well, and you said the kind of the floor is 2 games. I think they split their division games. I think they get 3 wins out of the division alone, based on the moves they made this year. Des, when you look at the schedule, do you think it's in favor of the Carolina Panthers? I heard in terms of strength of schedule, whatever that's worth nowadays, it's one of the easier schedules across the NFL.
Yeah, I don't take a whole lot of stock into strength of schedule because it bases it off of whatever your roster was last year, and nobody's team is exactly the same. So I never really understood that strength of schedule metric that they use. Looking through it, though, again, we just did Believe in Panthers about an hour before this. We don't typically do win-loss right when the schedule comes out. We usually wait till August after we've seen a couple preseason games, so we actually know who's on the team. So we don't really do that there. But just at a glance, looking at it, it's pretty navigable. The thing I like about it the most, and I didn't think I would, is that there's no primetime games. Every game is on Sunday. With the Sunday 9:30 game in Germany against the Giants, even that, if I can scroll down to it here, even that. So they're playing the Giants week 10, November 10th in Munich, Germany at 9:30 a.m. on NFL Network. They get their bye immediately after that, and then they host Kansas City. So I can't even be upset about that. You're going to have maybe Taylor Swift and Charlotte on week 12. That's projecting Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce still being together in November of 2024. We're in May, so we'll see if they're still together 6 months from now, but potentially see Taylor Swift in a suite in Charlotte potentially. I like that we get the bye before that. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but the Panthers put out 2 bits of video for this. One was the schedule release video. Kind of a miss. That I see what they were trying to do. I don't know if you've seen it or not. That it had players painting each other like self-portraits, and then they would hold up the paintings of each other, what they tried to do, and then it would be for each game. And then they had a behind-the-scenes video with Dave Canales, Dan Morgan, Derek Brown, Bryce Young, and I think there was somebody else sitting in there. And they got the call from the NFL, put it on speaker, and they go through them getting the games in real time or whatever, so they get to see where they're going to be. And they had pointed out there's no cold weather games really either on the schedule. Derek Brown didn't seem to care either way about that or not, but no cold weather games. You've got Arizona here at the end of the year, Dallas here at the end of the year. It's a very terrible schedule, and the NFC South, I mean, why not? This isn't the same team from last year. They've reconstructed the roster. The coaching staff is actually in sync with each other. They actually know what they want to do. And a lot of people forget last year, even with the incompetence of the Panthers coaching staff, the Panthers were in a lot of those games in the fourth quarter. They lost a lot of games by like 1 possession or whatever, which was the frustrating thing about it. So having said all that, if they just have more structure and are more healthier than they were last year, they should in theory be a better team. And I don't see anybody on this list other than Kansas City where I'm just like, oh, we might get the brakes beaten off of us. But I think the Panthers have a pretty manageable schedule.
Well, also at the same time, having that bye right before the Kansas City Chiefs game, that helps. And also it being in Carolina rather than at Arrowhead Stadium, that would have been worse.
Oh, to go on the road after the bye to Arrowhead? Yeah, yeah. I mean, the fact that they're going to be at home hosting the Chiefs at a 1 o'clock game, I always feel like the Panthers play the best when they play at 1 o'clock. Like when they play at 4 or when they play at night. Thankfully, no Thursday night games. I don't care. They don't have any Monday night games because I hate waiting all day for it anyway. There's a to be determined the last week of the season against Atlanta that they've left open to flex potentially. But really, any of these last 4 or 5 games can be flexed depending on what the Panthers have done. I could see if Carolina's playing really well and they've got a good record, I could see them flexing the Eagles game or the Cowboys game, or maybe even Kansas City. It just depends on how well they're doing at that point of the year. But you got to crawl before you can walk. And looking at the schedule, Stu said it best. He's like, I've never gone to a game thinking, well, we're going to get beaten. Like, we're going to get destroyed, like, in this game. So, like, it's kind of weird to kind of go into it going lose, win, or whatever. I think they'll be fine. I think they're going to be competitive and fun to watch, actually.
Well, just looking off that schedule, and I love doing the W's and the L's. I think 7 to 8 wins is pretty obtainable for the Panthers, especially if you split the division teams. I'm expecting a win over the Vegas Raiders. I don't know if they beat Chicago just because I could see DJ Moore having like a revenge game. I could see them beating Washington. I could see them beating Denver. I could see them beating the Giants in Germany. I could see them beating Arizona. And like once you tally all those up, that's 7-8 wins pretty easily.
And I don't think they're so separate from, Tampa and, well, the rest of the NFC South. I think all of the NFC South has questions to answer. Tampa's a year older. So is the Saints. Lord knows who's going to be quarterbacking the Atlanta Falcons by the time we see them week 6. We were talking about that earlier. It's like, who do you think is going to be the quarterback? And we're like, it could be, who knows? It could be Desmond Ritter week 6. Is he still in the for Atlanta?
I don't think Desmond Ritter's still in
they let him
Atlanta.
go?
I think, did he go to Seattle? No.
You might be right. I can't remember, but yeah. So
Desmond Ritter's actually in Arizona backing up.
Kyler
Murray.
Kyler Murray. Look at that.
So I think Arizona's somewhere on the schedule. You may still see Desmond Ritter in week 16.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. He's week 16, December 22nd. So right before Christmas, we'll see him. So
yeah. So is there a game that like stands out above the rest in terms of you're like, hey, I am looking forward to watching this Panthers game, and why, Shannon?
Well, like I said before, I'm really wanting the Broncos to fall on their face. So I would love for Carolina to beat Denver, and that would make my season, to be honest with you, because I want Denver to go 0-16 after what they done to Russ, the way they were. Yes, it's a personal grudge. Maybe I'll be over it next year. Might not be. But But in all fairness, I think every game with the NFC South, like the Falcons game, the Tampa game, the Saints game, I think those are games right there that are must wins. I'm looking at those 6 games there. Everybody else, that's fine. But I want to see what you can do with your division, because you got to win your division before you go anywhere.
Des?
Yeah, I agree with that. You got to win the division games. Of course, the Week 15 Dallas coming into Charlotte. I pleaded with fans on Believe in Panthers, and I'll do it again. Do not let Cowboy fans take over Bank of America Stadium. Like Cowboys,
again,
the Steelers, the Niners, those 3 fan bases in particular, especially the Steelers. Like I've gone to Panther games. I've gone to Panther games where the Steelers aren't even playing the Panthers, and there's Steeler fans in the crowd, like waving terrible towels. I'm like, what are you doing? Like why are you here? Like,
that's insane. I wondered why. Like I got Washington Redskin fans, in the stands and stuff. The Commander fans. Really? They're not even playing.
Yeah, they're not even here. Like you don't even go to the school. Like, what are you doing here? Like get out of here. But
you don't go here.
You don't even go here. Of course, I'm looking forward to seeing Pat Mahomes in Kansas City November 24th. That might be Thanksgiving week, the week 4, week after. Those 2 in particular, and I'm looking forward to. I'm not gonna lie, I'm looking forward to seeing the Chicago game. I want to see Caleb Williams and see what the hype's about, because I didn't really watch him a lot in college, and I saw people kind of both ways on him, really high on him or really low on him. There was really no middle. And of course, that Bryce has that game circled on his calendar. He actually perked up a little bit when it popped up on the schedule release behind the scenes video, because he knows he's inevitably linked to Chicago, like for the rest of his career, because of the trade to bring him here. And now to go up against the number 1 pick that happened because of what happened here last year, Caleb Williams versus Bryce Young. By week 6, we'll have week 5, we'll have an idea of what both teams are going to kind of maybe be in terms of identity. So those are the ones for me right now: Chicago, Dallas, Kansas City, and also hosting Joe Burrow September 29th, week 4, and the Bengals. Although the Bengals feels like they gave away half their offense in the offseason. Joe Mixon is in Houston now, and
T. Higgins might be
leaving. Technically a Bengal right now, but we'll see what happens with that. And I don't think they fixed their offensive line either. So, so we'll see how that goes too. But those are probably the 4 that are circled on mine.
Yeah, I completely agree with the Chicago game. Like, it's going to be Caleb Williams versus Bryce Young, DJ Moore playing his former team, the Carolina Panthers. Another game to watch out for is their trip up to Washington, because they have Jane Daniels up there. Jane Daniels and Bryce Young both won Heisman trophies. We'll see how Jane Daniels does in Washington. I feel like those could be good. And then Denver. Honestly, I feel like if we looked at the entire NFL and their schedules, week 8, just in general, is such a good week. I mean, you have the Panthers and Broncos, which, everybody understands as a Super Bowl 50 rematch, but that entire week looks really good, because you got the Vikings and the Rams. Who knows how it's going to go between those 2 teams, how JJ McCarthy does. You got on Sunday alone, you got the Ravens and Browns. You got the Titans and the Lions. You got the Jets, and the Patriots, but Aaron Rodgers in Foxborough for the first time. You have NFC South matchup between Atlanta and Tampa Bay. You have Chicago and Washington, by the way. I feel like the NFL missed on this right here, because for the second year in a row, you have the number 1 and number 2 overall picks both be quarterbacks, and you're not going to have them face each other in week 1. You're going to have it in midseason. How much better would it be if they had put Caleb Williams versus Jane Daniels week 1, just like they should have done Bryce Young versus CJ Stroud week 1 last year? That's my beef with the schedule when you look at it as a whole. But week 8 also has the Cowboys 49ers, the Eagles, Bengals, Buffalo in Seattle. I mean, this is going to be a really, really good week. Shannon, when I said that stuff about number 1 pick versus number 2 pick, or if there's a week in your mind that you're looking forward to the most, what comes to your mind?
I think you were listening to me, because that was the week that I was looking at as well too, because That's going to be a slaughterhouse there and especially with it being week 8, smack dab in the middle of the season. I'm okay with the fact that Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams are playing each other in the middle of the year because who knows, one of those guys might not be starting. I mean, I doubt it. I really do doubt it because I think both these teams here have to start those guys because they're can't misses. But just in case the Bears are the Bears and mishandle Caleb Williams like I expect them to do, or if Washington just basically decides they're going to have somebody else start in front of Jaden Daniels, which I doubt, it's going to be fun to watch. But I'm looking forward to that Cowboys 49ers game as well, too, which you owe my boys. You do. So I'm looking forward to that. I am.
Des, when you look at the schedule for the rest of the league, what week pops up to you where you're like, I am going to sit in front of my TV Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night, all of Sunday, just to enjoy some football?
I honestly have not had a chance to really look at the entire league schedule because I've been looking at the Panthers one and having to dissect that one. I'm starting to pull it up now. Obviously, the rivalry games. I'm trying to pull it up so I can actually see it, and they're making it hard for me to do so on NFL.com. So here we go.
Come on, NFL.com. We need you to do better, NFL.com.
Just kind of glancing through it. I'll just start early because it's a long season, but what are they doing? Just in week 1, opening up, the first thing that pops out to me, Panthers Saints, because that's a divisional game. It's in New Orleans. Cowboys Browns is interesting. 4:25 p.m. on Fox.
That is Tom Brady's broadcasting debut, by the
way. Yeah. So that'll be huge in terms of listenership or whatnot. And then the night game on Sunday night, opening up Rams Lions at Lions. The Lions have an opportunity to really take a step forward and be an elite team in the NFC this year, and kind of a weaker NFC compared to the AFC. And then, of course, Ravens Chiefs opening up the season Thursday, September the 5th. At Chiefs, a rematch of the AFC championship game. That should be pretty good too. And Peacock has the game, I think in South America. I think they are Packers Eagles that Friday on Peacock. And we should talk more about, again, it's hard for me to say because I don't know who's going to be on whose team by the time we get to that point. But I'm more looking at like the logistics of the NFL and what's happening with sports in general. There's going to be multiple streaming outlets that are going to have these games this year from Peacock. Netflix is going to have 2 Christmas Day games, which is brand new. Netflix is getting into the sports game hard. Between having NFL games, they're going to have that Jake Paul Mike Tyson boxing match live. They're going to have
Monday Night Raw.
Monday Night Raw is moving to Netflix. Like Netflix is really getting into the live game. Keep an eye on them and Amazon in particular in terms of what they're doing. And TNT might be losing the NBA. NBC may be outbidding them for it. So we might be in the last days of Inside the NBA. So it's just there's different stuff going on like with these companies. And you're seeing a lot of the streaming companies starting to come in and take bites from the pie. And the NFL is just benefiting from all of it. So I'm looking more at that kind of stuff right now in May than I am matchups that I want to see. I won't turn my mind to that, honestly, until it gets cooler outside.
Yeah. Derek Polly commenting on the YouTube channel. Touch on NFL and Netflix. That's the cool thing about us being a live daily sports show, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday on Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel is you guys can comment and you guys can tailor the show to how you guys want it. Okay. If you guys want us to touch on a certain thing like NFL on Netflix and Peacock and Amazon and cable, like Shannon, there's so many outlets. And if you start looking at okay, people will buy their Sunday ticket. People will buy their YouTube TV. People will buy their Peacock. People will buy their Netflix to consume all these. Honestly, being an NFL fan is starting to get a little too expensive if you're looking at all these subscriptions.
Absolutely. I was watching Tap Outs and Touchdowns last night, and Banker Bill, he was ill about it. Like his Homer's Corner where he was talking about it. And it made a lot of sense because, the NFL, and yes, to quote The Godfather, one of my favorite movies. It's just business. It's not personal. These guys are out to make money. NFL's going to make some money. It is a business. I get it. But everyone is going to have to get these streaming, go and start streaming. My sister and me, we were dinosaurs until last year. We got rid of cable. We were like, forget about it. We're not doing this anymore. We're going to stream everything. Hulu, Netflix, HBO Max, all that other stuff. We decided this is what we're going to do. And the streaming is cool. I like it. But, when you've got games everywhere, if you're a big sports fan like all of us three, we're going to be watching Monday Night Raw on Netflix. We're going to be watching the NFL on Netflix on Christmas. We're going to be, Paramount might have something. Amazon Prime's going to have something. So it's like,
they had the playoff game on Peacock last year, remember? They had the wild card game on Peacock. I think they got another one this year.
Just come together and just say, hey, this is what we're going to do. Flat feet. Here we go. But it ain't going to happen. You're going to have to pick 1, 2, 7.
It's almost as expensive, if not more, than it was to have cable.
Show them on TV.
I pay for cable cord early, like 2012, 13, I think maybe.
Oh, wow.
And it's grown from because we had gotten I couldn't stand Spectrum. Well, Time Warner at the time, they were the worst. And then I think we had switched to Dish or DirecTV or something like that. And I was paying $200 a month or something for 8 channels that the whole house used. And it got to a point where it was I really only need this for news and for sports. So it was a matter of kind of figuring out how to do that. And got a digital antenna because I always watch NFL Live anyway. And that's still on terrestrial channels. And it's in digital, 1080 format. Just get a digital antenna. You're good to go. It's free. So I got that. I have Sling. So I have ESPN access because I need ACC network for work. I probably could write that off actually. And then, what else? Hulu and Netflix. Although I keep noticing my Netflix bill is getting higher and higher. I need to check why it's been charged what it is right now. And now I have Peacock's $5. So I have Peacock because they have WWE Network embedded into it now. So I have Peacock, Paramount Plus, all of them. So when I add them all up together, I'm probably paying about 100, 110 a month for all of it, which is still less than it was for cable. But it's getting to a point where my HBO Max subscription is almost I think $16 a month or something like that. So, and that's going to go up. And honestly, it's crazy because we're sitting here talking, we'll bring this around the sports. I was trying to figure out, trying to justify having Max. And then I realized, it's Warner Brothers Discovery. So it's TNT, TBS. So it's AEW Wrestling is now on Max. The NBA playoffs are on Max. But if they lose the NBA, then it makes my Max subscription not as valuable anymore because they were starting to put all this live stuff on HBO Max. And now if they lose that, and they also had all of March Madness on Max because all those stations are owned by WBD. So instead of flipping to Court TV or whatever, I could just go to Max and the hub was right there. I could just go to whatever I wanted. So there's a shift going on right now to streaming stations for sports stuff. It's the only content you can really still make a lot of money on. So we'll see what happens, but it's crazy. Yeah, you're gonna need multiple streamers to watch this stuff. The NFL, the Germany game for the Panthers at 9:30 in the morning, I think November 10th against the Giants, is not on regular TV. It's on NFL Network. So that's the only game they have this season that's not on regular terrestrial TV that you'll have to get a free trial or something to watch. That's what I do every year.
It's starting to get money grab. And if this keeps going, it's going to get to a point where people have to choose what they want because they can't have it all.
Right.
That's going to be the problem that they run into. But when we're thinking about what time of the year it is, there is NBA playoffs going on. We had a couple really great nights of NBA playoff action. And speaking of, the Minnesota Timberwolves may have a little bit too much to handle right now against the Denver Nuggets. They were up 2-0 in that series. On Out of Pocket last week, we were okay, the tide's turning and the Nuggets are in trouble. Well, Nuggets remind everybody that they are the defending NBA champions for a reason. They have the 3-time MVP, Nikola Jokic, who is in elite territory when it comes to how many people have won 3 MVPs in their career. And now tonight, the Nuggets have a chance to put the Timberwolves away in 6 games after being down 0-2, or the Timberwolves have a chance to force a Game 7. Shannon, how do you think this goes down tonight?
Now, before I answer that, I want everyone to understand that I love Ants. Ant's a good ball player. He's a franchise player. I like this guy, but I never once doubted the Denver Nuggets at all. I figured that every game was going to be close. After game 2, I was like, oh man, really? I mean, they got the doors blown off, and then they go in there and they just kill them in Minnesota. And I'm like, okay. But, the quote, since we're all wrestling fans, the quote, the great man, Ric Flair, to beat a man, you got to beat the man. And I don't think Minnesota's going to beat the man tonight. I don't think they're going to do it. I think that they're going to lose this game because the way that Denver has played from their bench. The bench play for the Denver Nuggets has been great. They've scored points off the bench. They've defended a lot better. And pretty much the dagger in the heart was when Nikola Jokic called himself a freak of nature, and he said it like he was so bored. He said it like, y'all didn't know that? I'm like, really? He didn't get on there and yell in the mic, I'm a freak of nature. He said, because I'm a freak of nature, And everybody laughed, but he's kind of like, y'all didn't know that? So
Y'all didn't know that?
I think it's a wrap. I think Denver's going to get him, and Denver's going on.
So you think it ends tonight?
I think it ends tonight, man. I mean, I want to win it because I want 7 games, but I doubt it.
This is all Shaq's fault, really. This is all Shaq's fault.
Can't blame Shaq.
Yeah, we can. Because ever since Shaq told Joker to his face that he didn't deserve to win MVP on live TV on Inside the NBA, all Joker's done is gone the hell off. Like literally, like from that moment on, you can mark this in the series. From that moment on, Jokic has just been dropping 40 burgers on people, and they can't guard him. They can't guard him. Like they have the defensive player of the year and Karl Anthony Towns, and they can't, and Naz Reid, and they cannot guard Jokic. Like he is pushing people around, like he's shooting over them, he's shooting threes, he's getting assists. Because I remember I've said it before, when you can let him go off for 30-35 and still beat the Denver Nuggets. It's when he's getting double-digit assists, because then that means Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon, KCP, all those Murray, they're starting to get buckets too, and that's what makes it hard to stop. I think we got ahead of ourselves with this Minnesota team in terms of thinking that they had arrived early, and I same with OKC, and I always forget, me being one of the old heads here. The NBA is kind of different than any other sport. Usually you have to knock on the door a couple times before you bust through. There's usually someone in front of you that had to knock on the door a couple times to bust through. It goes all the way back to like the 50s and 60s, Lakers, Celtics, all that kind of stuff. We saw it recently with the Nuggets. We've seen it recently with the Bucks. We're seeing it right now with the Celtics, where they've been knocking on the door for years, and everyone's expecting them to bust through this year. This is their moment. We kind of gave it to Minnesota and OKC early. They haven't had this kind of adversity before. The OKC is the youngest team in the league, and they're the 1 seed in the West. And they're having trouble with a Dallas Mavericks team with Luka Doncic with one leg. I mean,
Luka just won't die.
He won't die. He just won't die. You can't kill him. He won't die.
It's like Matt Hardy.
But Batman Forever. Why don't you just die?
Just die, please. So I mean, I think Shannon's right. Unless they figure out a way to free up Ant-Man, because they've been doubling him too the past 2 games, and that's been a huge difference. It really comes down to Cat. Cat has to have a 20-point game for Minnesota to win. Those 2 wins they had in the first 2 games, Karl Anthony Towns was getting buckets and he was being aggressive. He's been limited a little bit the past 2. Karl Anthony Towns can get up and go. They can force it. I'd rather see a game 7 on Sunday.
I would too.
Now with the Knicks Pacers series, I want the Knicks to go ahead and finish this thing off. Like they need to rest. I don't want them on Sunday back at Madison Square Garden. Go ahead and finish this off tomorrow night. But for this one, I'm going to go the same way. It's at Minnesota. The road team has won all these games except for the last one. The Denver one. I think Denver's kind of figured Minnesota out. I'm gonna go with Denver too, but I'm rooting for Minnesota.
Well, here's one of those interesting things. You said, Cat went off the first couple games. Cat still put up 23 points the other night. And but
where were they in the game? Like were they in trash time, like garbage time, when they were already
towards the tail end?
Yeah.
I think a good bit like came in the first quarter too. Yeah. Because I remember looking at my dad and I was like, okay, Cat's showing up. This is huge. But here's going to be the determining factor. Does Anthony Edwards take over and he go off? Like, could we see I was watching something on ESPN programming either today or the day before, and they were talking about how LeBron, was facing that Detroit Pistons team, and they had just won a title back in 2007, and LeBron had like 29 of the 30 points in fourth quarter or overtime to will them to a victory. Like Anthony Edwards, I hate to put it all on one player because you still have Gobert, who needs to show why he was Defensive Player of the Year. You still have Cat. You still have Naz Reid off the bench, but Anthony Edwards needs one of those, like, you cannot stop me, and I am going to do everything in my power and then some to force a game 7, because that will be huge, especially for his young career as well. So I'm actually going to go out on a limb here and say the Minnesota Timberwolves force a game 7, and that might be my bias coming into this. They're favored by 2.5 points, but I'd really love to see this series go 7 games because I've really enjoyed it.
It's been the one I've been most interested in out of the 4 that are still going on, followed by the Pacers and the Knicks. I just haven't been that interested in Dallas OKC. I watched part of it last night so I could get a vibe of the series. And then I didn't watch any of the Boston series because I just assumed Boston was going to move on, especially when I found out Donovan Mitchell wasn't even playing last night, and a couple others too. It's like, okay, that's barbecue chicken. They're about to go ahead and go to Cancun. So shout out to Boston, 3rd straight Eastern Conference Finals appearance for the Celtics, and they've been the best team in the league all year. I don't know if people believe they're going to beat the Nuggets if the Nuggets end up getting there, but
they could be any of those other teams.
I wanted to see Timberwolves Celtics, to be honest. That's kind of where I was hoping we were going to go, but I think we're a year or two ahead of where Anthony Edwards is going to be in his trajectory or whatnot. So we'll see.
That's scary to think about.
Yeah, it is. It is scary to think about. And like I said before, I've backed off of the Michael Jordan comparisons to Anthony Edwards. Somebody inside the NBA made a point. He actually reminds me more of Dwayne Wade in terms of how he plays. And if you squint your eyes, Dwayne Wade kind of had some Jordan characteristics as well. But Anthony can shoot threes, and he plays better defense than Dwayne Wade did. So there's a little Jordan there. If you squint your eyes, you can kind of see it. I think it's the aggressiveness that makes people it reminds them of Jordan, where it's just on like all game. There's no handshakes with the opposing team and hugs and laughs and the LeBron stuff, taking pictures on the sideline, that kind of thing he used to do back in the day with the team. Nah, I'm going to destroy you. Like for 48 minutes, I'm destroying you. Like, and I'm going to talk to you about it like the whole time. So
it should be. That's
what draws me to Anthony Edwards. That's what I like. I wish guys like Zion had that kind of on-off switch that's just on all the time type of vibe. But everybody's friends in the league now, so I guess it's harder to do that.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to squint your eyes really close when you're watching Game 6 tonight, Nuggets Timberwolves, and we'll be back tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. part of your lunch break hour to dissect that game and to look ahead at the rest of the NBA playoffs for the rest of the weekend. But for Michael Davis, it's been Shannon Smith and Desmond Johnson. Go follow their stuff from the Cat Cave and Believe in Panthers. They're going to do great content this fall. Des?
I was going to say a brand new episode of Franchise Players. Actually, I did that this morning too. That comes out probably the next 30 minutes or so on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Brandon Blakeney in the house talking to NBA. And David Glenn from the David Glenn Show is on talking about the UNC. Is UNC trying to leave the ACC? What's happening with all this? He's my legal guy. So we get into it with him, and he has some interesting things to say about that. So definitely check out Franchise Players on Tobacco Road about an hour.
That's why you should subscribe to the Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel so you don't miss any of this content and you get it all. Guys, we will be back on this Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel tomorrow afternoon, 12:30. So stay tuned, and we'll see you tomorrow on Out of Pocket.